Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome to my channel again. In today's video we are going over pool value for every single unit in 3.0, starting from phase 1 and then we'll go to phase 2. So starting with phase 1, we're going over reruns first. Let's go over the CARTETHYA and CIACCONA first. CARTETHYA is a unit that is very powerful. She's the best DPS, she's considered the best DPS in the game at the metal level. But to reach that metal level, there are few components you need to have. Metal level, at bare minimum, requires the minimum upgrade you need for her to actually function normally, otherwise her damage is like underwhelming, and it's her signature weapon. Her signature weapon is very interesting. It's very specific. It buffs, it increases HP a lot, and even more HP in her skill of her weapon, and some def ignore, as well as amplification of the damage that your enemy takes by 20% when you have at least one arrow erosion stack on them. So very good, very powerful, but unfortunately this weapon is only powerful on CARTETHYA, and that is actually the smallest issue, because this weapon honestly doesn't work on any other unit on the game, and that's like the first thing you need to have in mind. The second thing you need to have in mind is the CIACCONA, which is connected with and very very connected when it comes to value with CARTETHYA. Now CIACCONA is more independent because CIACCONA is actually someone who can generally buff all of the arrow teams, right? You can have someone like Chuyan combined with someone like IUNO, and then CIACCONA will do the most work because both of them will do more damage with CIACCONA on the team. Otherwise, the team will be mediocre. So CIACCONA plays big part in arrow-based teams, not just for CARTETHYA. So in this scenario, CIACCONA doesn't need CARTETHYA to function and be good on your account. She's a general arrow damage bonus buffer, and then she decreases resistance on arrow damage with her signature weapon. But she can also, she's a pistol user, she can use static mist, so she's a very decent good unit that can work without signature. So she's not signature reliant, but that signature will add more damage to the team if you use it on CIACCONA. So that's very good to know. So her signature definitely makes her more stronger, but without signatures she's still strong with static mist. However, because CARTETHYA's scales of HP, as her weapon already told us, she uses HP for damage, and that is very bad. And the reason why it's very bad is because someone like Shorekeeper, when activates Rejuvenating Glow set, that buff only goes to CIACCONA if we use someone like Shorekeeper. So the value from Shorekeeper goes down from Fallacy and the Rejuvenating Glow set because they buff attack percentage, which CIACCONA as a sub DPS does okay damage, but it's not like heavy impactful. It's most of her buffs that are actually important. CIACCONA also, basically what CARTETHYA requires is arrow erosion stacks. CARTETHYA, in her CARTETHYA state, like mini state, when she's like small, her basic attack 4 gives 1 stack of erosion. Then her resin skill gives 2 stacks of erosion, and that's basically what she does in her mini, like when she's like CARTETHYA, not Fleur de Lis, that's what she can do. However, that's 3 stacks, and you can only have 3 stacks without using Arrow Rover, and most of the people don't enjoy using Arrow Rover. And if you use Arrow like Spectral Rover or Havoc Rover on some other teams, on TOA, that means you cannot really fully use Arrow Rover on like more than 1 floor, or maybe not even 1 floor with CARTETHYA. That means for the most amount of buffing from the 3rd slot, you need someone like Chisa, right? And Chisa was recently on a banner. But however, like Chisa over Arrow Rover doesn't really provide that much value. Like, does increase damage of the team a bit more, but not as much as without her weapon. So that's one component, but Arrow Rover is very needed on CARTETHYA team. So that's very important. As we said before, her weapon gives HP, and so The reason why that's important also is because there's no alternative. There's something like Emerald of Genesis, but then you need to go something like 4-3-3-1-1 with Echo lineup. As you can see, what you need to do is 4-4-1-1-1 lineup, and that means you need to farm bosses until you get like good subs, like 2 different bosses, and like you can get 2 different sets for these bosses, and only this set uses these bosses as my like this echo. So basically how it goes is you need to fight those bosses, and every single fight when you kill them they drop the echo. Each one of them can drop either Gust of Welkin or this Windward Pilgrimage set, which is the best in slot for CARTETHYA. But Gust of Welkin is the best in slot for CIACCONA, right? This is the Gust of Welkin. And so you don't want this set for CARTETHYA. For CARTETHYA you want her set, which gives buffs, right? Gives 10% crit rate, 30% arrow damage. And so it can be kind of harder to build this set and annoying and frustrating for a character like this. And she scales of HP. So any attack percent buff, like for example Moonlight Cloud, only benefit she gets is from Heron, 12% damage boost, and from Sanhua, which gives 38% basic attack damage amplification. And Sanhua is right here. She's the best 4-star unit in the game. And so Sanhua will increase the basic attack damage of CARTETHYA in her ultimate state when she becomes Fleur-de-Lis, and when you're in that state, your aerial basic attack and ground basic attack, they still do basic attack damage, so, and they do a lot of damage as well. But then your damage is split. You do double Resonance skill cast, and they also do some good damage, so they also want some damage bonus. Then your Liberation Nuke is considered liberation damage, not basic attack damage. And so Resonance skill, only CARTETHYA version of Resonance skill is considered basic attack damage. The Fleur-de-Lis Resonance skills kill Resonance skill damage. So what ends up happening? CIACCONA becomes almost priority in order to play CARTETHYA. Otherwise, CARTETHYA becomes, she becomes comparable DPS to someone like Havoc Rover if you have signature. If you don't have her signature, let me speak firsthand. I tried to use this weapon that is mentioned here. I don't have CIACCONA, as you can see, and what ends up happening is that this guy right here, 1.0 standard unit Calcharo with Sanhua, and Calcharo does liberation damage the most. Like basic attack damage in Calcharo's kit is like minimum, so even less buffing and benefit from Sanhua. This team, Calcharo Sanhua, does better than Emerald of Genesis CARTETHYA. You might be saying, it's skill issue, but ask yourself again, why is nobody playing Calcharo? Because he's too hard. So if I'm playing a unit that requires more skill, is it my skill issue? I don't think so. And this is the fact of CARTETHYA. The way she works is, in her small state, CARTETHYA state, you stack at least 3 erosion stacks. In Fleur-de-Lis state, your ground basic attack and aerial basic attack consumes erosion while attacking, so you consume these stacks of erosion. But however, the problem with that is that your Liberation Nuke amplify its damage by 20% for every erosion stack on enemy. But if you consume those stacks, how are you gonna amplify the damage? And so your damage from 350% 1000 damage can go to 140% 1000 of damage just because you're lacking stacks of erosion. And that's not the only problem. To get more stacks, you need to now swap. You need to, basically, here's the thing. If you don't like quick swapping, if you're someone who hates quick swapping, and you might want to pull for CARTETHYA, that's exactly what you need to do. You will need to quick swap, because you can also use Arrow Rover with CARTETHYA and Shorekeeper, right? Arrow Rover might get some benefit from Shorekeeper, but only crit buffs and outro buff will go to CARTETHYA, right? Because she scales of HP. So buffing is very hard for her CARTETHYA because of that. However, someone like CIACCONA, with her Echo set, she can trigger this Echo set and give 15% team-wide arrow damage bonus. So more damage for CARTETHYA, and the weapon from CIACCONA is also very powerful. It gives you 10% arrow damage resistant reduction to an enemy that you're inflicting arrow erosion. So CARTETHYA also benefits a lot from that. That's a very powerful buff. Then CIACCONA, from her Forte, I think, she also gives you team-wide 24% arrow damage bonus. So 39% arrow damage bonus from CIACCONA that all goes to CARTETHYA. CIACCONA also applies up to 20 stacks of erosion off field. Now you can start saying why this is very tricky situation. because you have a HP dependent DPS that has split damage type, not only one, so there's no single damage type buffer that can actually help her out outside of CIACCONA. And those erosion stacks are doing decent damage when they detonate, and so CIACCONA, who also amplifies arrow erosion damage by 100%, which is crazy, she gives so many buffs, and CIACCONA being taken out of CARTETHYA's team is such a big nerf that is crazy. And honestly, you need specific CIACCONA arrow rover for CARTETHYA to work, and so that's the problem with CARTETHYA. Her weapon, she's almost completely a signature reliant with CIACCONA. Without CIACCONA, she's 100%, 1000% signature reliant without CIACCONA, because without that, without all of that, that's like big nerf. She becomes worse than Calcharo, which is a standard day one character. So that's what I'm trying to say. Even maybe Ling Yang can out DPS CARTETHYA without C. So that's what I'm saying. Like, it's a big performance like hit, and so yeah, she requires her signature. Her talents, you need all 4 of these leveled up, because this one does a lot of damage and you need them for stacking forte. Then this one is used, and then you going to this mode, which does a lot of damage as well, and you're using those swords, and then you're activating this liberation which does a big hit. So you need all 4 of these. This is like almost 3 weeks of grinding to get all of these. 3 weeks of boss materials, where someone like AUGUSTA, for example, can go with 8, 8, 10, 10, and boom, you're doing fine, right? You're doing fine. As you can see, only intro skill you can pass, but you can do like 8, 8, and 10, 10, and you're good. With CARTETHYA, if you don't have CIACCONA, you need to go all 4 10s, and you need your inherent skills as well, and your like HP and all of those stats. Like, she needs a lot of investment, like resource wise, weapon wise, because you also need to upgrade weapons. So that's a lot of shell credits, that's a lot of materials. You cannot use Emerald of Genesis and expect good performance. And if you miss on CIACCONA, CARTETHYA will be probably sitting dust on your account. So it's either get more copies of CARTETHYA, at least S2, which is very expensive for your pools, or go for CIACCONA. And honestly, between those two, CIACCONA wins when it comes to value, because she can use Static Mist, and it's almost the same thing in every arrow team outside of CARTETHYA. And so if you have someone like Jian and you already have IUNO, full CIACCONA if you don't care about Lynae, and boom, go for Jian, IUNO, CIACCONA lineup, and you will clear Whimpering Waste, which is a very unlikable mode by everyone. So getting easy clear there, Tower of Adversity, and then Holograms. So yeah, Jian becomes stronger if you have him. So CIACCONA is better option because it's a general buffer. She will always be good. CARTETHYA, however, her playstyle can be very energy consuming. Like, you need ER, you need a lot of stuff. And then we have someone like, let's compare CARTETHYA to current rerun, and that is PHROLOVA. PHROLOVA doesn't require Lithium energy. She can also use Cosmic Ripples and still also the content. I used PHROLOVA, as you can see on one of my previous videos. I used her with Rover and Showkeeper. I'm also working on a video, and I also recorded myself using Spectral Rover and Verina with PHROLOVA, and that clears middle tower, floor 3 and 4. Can you believe that? You probably can't, but trust me, I will show you. PHROLOVA is the best unit in the game, and so PHROLOVA, which reruns right now, is way better investment than CARTETHYA. Because PHROLOVA's weapon, if PHROLOVA ever, which is less likely, PHROLOVA is way more valuable than CARTETHYA. If PHROLOVA ever gets power creep, this weapon can still be used as a stat stick at least, if not even for the effect, because effect is pretty general, right? You get crit rate and attack. Everyone in the game and everyone in the future can use this. Attack percentage within 12 seconds after dealing echo skill damage. Gain, like, echo skill damage is, you can always deal echo skill damage, because echo skill damage comes from every echo. Like, you activate your 4-cost echo, if it's a summon, even better, boom. Get the buff, gain 32% for free resonance skill damage bonus and 32% echo skill damage amplification if you use that as well. And ignore 8% defense. So 32% resonance skill damage bonus and 8% def ignore at the minimum for any rectifier user that just activates the echo skill. So this is very powerful weapon for regardless of whether you have PHROLOVA or no. However, CARTETHYA's weapon which is a sword, is only usable on her. I have this weapon. I think she's the only unit in a game that can use this weapon. She's the only unit on my account who got this weapon equipped on her, and I never unequipped this weapon from her because there's no other use case. Every other, even 1.0, look at the 1.0 weapon, that's the attack percentage, even 30% basic attack damage to anyone, 56% like stackable resistance skill damage bonus, attack percentage, critical damage, attack, like it's so much more use. Even standard one is more valuable to every single sword user in a game, more valuable than this weapon. So that's another thing. Her weapon is a terrible value if you don't have CARTETHYA. If you have CARTETHYA, in order to make her work normally without like being underwhelming, she needs her weapon. She needs her SIG. That's unfortunately the charge shoot. And unlike her, PHROLOVA, who's currently on a banner, is way better. Because people are saying, oh, I'm gonna skip PHROLOVA, I'm gonna pull CARTETHYA now. She will brick your account. If you don't have CIACCONA, if you have CIACCONA and CARTETHYA, they destroy content. So if you get both, good. If you're 100% sure you can get CIACCONA and CARTETHYA and potentially the weapon of CARTETHYA, 100% go for it. But if you think you can only get one of them, you might as well just get PHROLOVA if you don't already have. Because PHROLOVA right now is here and you might regret not pulling her. Because PHROLOVA is way more useful, way more valuable in every endgame mode than CARTETHYA. And so that's all I can say about CARTETHYA. She's heavily investment requiring, but she is worth it. Honestly, she's worth it. If you have CIACCONA and CARTETHYA together with Shorekeeper, they clear every single tower of adversity, and you can potentially, because of CIACCONA's off-field arrow erosion inflicting, you can also maybe play like Wuthering Waste and clear that as well if you put some practice. So, but CIACCONA overall is a long-term value for every future arrow team because she gives 39% damage bonus for arrow damage, and her weapon gives resistance, 10% resistance to arrow resistance reduction. So very good for TOA, holograms, even Wuthering Waste. So someone like Jian benefits from CIACCONA as well. So you can buff your Jian way more if you pull CIACCONA and her SIG. But CIACCONA doesn't need her SIG. If you play with Jian, you can just use Static Mist. It'll be almost better because more ER. So yeah, CIACCONA is very, very powerful. She almost gives another 10% critical rate because, as you can see this, CARTETHYA's best in slot set can also be used on Jian. The reason why, because hitting a target with arrow erosion increases critical rate by 10% and 30% of arrow damage bonus lasting for 10 seconds. So basically what you can do, 30%, 10%, 40% plus 10% critical rate. So someone like Jian can easily use this set because he only gets 40%, but he also gets extra 10% critical rate if he uses this set. So I'm just saying, like, that's almost like every single arrow DPS can equip this set and get just bonus 10% critical rate just from you having CIACCONA on your team, because she also gives damage bonus from her kit, from here, and from her weapon even more buffs. So, and she rotates like very fast, almost as fast as Sanhua, if not even faster. I think people are doing like getting like 3-4 seconds, boom, they're out, and it's like she's so fast, she doesn't drop your DPS, and so very good unit. But CARTETHYA takes a field time, so that's something to keep in mind. Yeah, you need to equip more, like level up more talents for CARTETHYA. You need her weapon, you need CIACCONA. Like her best in slot is CIACCONA, and it's like almost a must-have if you want CARTETHYA to not be underwhelming. So that's what I need to say about CARTETHYA. CIACCONA is, in my opinion, more versatile because she can cover every future arrow team, where CARTETHYA will always be locked into CIACCONA as of right now. So yeah, I think compared to current rerun, which is PHROLOVA, this is worse. And honestly, CIACCONA, even though she buffs a lot, I think PHROLOVA is way better. Even for Jian, because at least PHROLOVA amplifies 25% heavy attack and she does a lot of damage, so when that combines, Jian performs way better with PHROLOVA than Mortefi, IUNO, CIACCONA. Like if I need to choose the sub DPS, so PHROLOVA is currently the best option you can go for, and this is just worse, and CIACCONA potentially worse. So that's for phase 1. Let's go to the phase 2 reruns, and those are AUGUSTA, as we see, and IUNO. AUGUSTA, in my opinion, is the safest option in 3.0. Wait for AUGUSTA if you don't have many DPSs, but you have built your Mortefi, and on top of that you maybe don't have Jian. Good. Because your Mortefi can now be used on Augusta. And Augusta can use standard Broadblade, Lustrous Razor. And the reason why I'm saying this is because her set is so... you get 36 echoes you need to defeat, and the echoes, you just get the echoes, right? It's a Nightmare Purification, Nightmare Nest field, and you go there, farm this set every single day without wasting wave plates, and you're good to go. She's the Electro unit. She does mostly heavy attack damage almost entirely. She's incredible DPS. She doesn't require only Mortefi. She can use... her best in slot is IUNO, which gives a lot of buffs and does decent damage when on Augusta team. But Augusta, unlike CARTETHYA, is way better and way cheaper, because you don't specifically need this standard Dominion. There's also another best in slot weapon, and it's Gian's signature. So you can eventually just say, okay, screw it, I'm not getting this weapon, I will go for, what is it? I'll go for Lustrous Razor because I have it built it already, or maybe I will pull this one, level it up, and have Augusta because her echo set gives 6% attack and 4% critical damage up to 5 times, which is 20% critical damage, which is already amazing. So your Lustrous Razor will not really will not hurt your crit stats that much, because your set already gives you 20% at least. So that's very good. You can have a decent critical ratio even though you use Lustrous Razor. So that's why Augusta is very good. She can use Lustrous Razor, this attack percentage from Lustrous Razor, and where is it? So yeah, Lustrous Razor, let me see, it gives you energy regen of 12.8%, the huge amount of attack boost and base attack. Liberation is fine, but this one is nothing because Augusta doesn't do liberation damage. But for energy regen, because she relies on her ultimate to do the most damage, you need that ult to have energy ready when it's available. So you can use the energy, like the ult, and then you can go ahead and go for your full DPS. So energy regen is important on Augusta, but also this massive attack boost is huge, especially because her set already gives you crit, so you're good on that one. So yeah, Lustrous Razor is perfect alternative for Augusta, which is why Augusta is the best choice for rerun. And her weapon is good, but unfortunately, I'm gonna be straightforward. Augusta weapon, CIACCONA's weapon, CARTETHYA's weapon, all those weapons are very, very restrictive, as well as IUNO's weapon. Let's go about that one as well. Moongazer Sigil. Without this weapon, IUNO doesn't really do that much damage. But again, if you have this weapon, not IUNO, there's only one character in the game that can use this thing outside of IUNO, and that one is power creeped already. And it's Zhang Liao, right? You can also use Moongazer because he's Liberation Gauntlet user, so he can use Moongazer. But again, like, Moongazer is also kind of restrictive, requires shielding, so even Zhang Liao is way better with his own Sig, and his Sig might be also good alternative to this if you have Zhang Liao already and his signature, so she might be okay. But Augusta, honestly, she works with Mortefi, and any heavy attack damage buffer, you can also use PHROLOVA with her, and she will work amazingly. The team will just shred any floor. Mortefi, amazing buffer for Augusta, so that's crazy. So yeah, Augusta is a very strong unit. She will get you far. So yeah, that's without a doubt the best pull on the 3.0 rerun banners. And so IUNO, honestly, she's more singular reliant and not as much as CARTETHYA, but if you want like damage, then IUNO needs this Moongazer Sigil, which is her best in slot, like her signature weapon. I use Stonard R5 with like maximum buff, and she still doesn't do enough damage. I don't know, she's underwhelming. She can use Abyss Surges, but honestly, this Abyss Surges doesn't really have many users that you can use on. At least Broadblade for Augusta, you can use this on Calcharo, you can use this on like Gian, you can use this on other ones. This one is just, there's not many Gauntlet users in a game who are DPS. There's like Zani, but like if you have Zani, like you probably have her signature because she's very expensive in the first place. And so like, yeah, like if you have Zani, you already have a very strong DPS. But anyway, like besides the point, Augusta is the best pull after all reruns. So 3.0 Augusta is the best choice. IUNO is only, in my opinion, good if you have Augusta, because IUNO, her Ultra skill does amplify incoming Resonator's heavy attack damage by 50% amplification for 14 seconds, which is good decent for someone like Jian, or maybe, you know, any heavy attack damage dealer in the future, but you want like value right now, and right now there are not many. Right now you can pull for PHROLOVA, and PHROLOVA will give way better performance to AUGUSTA team than IUNO, and that's just pure fact, because like PHROLOVA, when she reaches the maximum aftertune stacks, which is her own mechanic, she becomes the best DPS in the entire game, so regardless. So the like sub DPS hybrid, who is not even on level of AUGUSTA, is not beating like PHROLOVA performance. So yeah, like IUNO is decent investment, but only good option if you have AUGUSTA already and you want your AUGUSTA to be way stronger. So if you have like Jian's signature weapon within Summit, or AUGUSTA signature weapon already, that's like baseline investment. Now you can go step further and say, IUNO, I want IUNO. And so you can get IUNO, and honestly her best in slot echo set should be also like Crown of Valor, the same one AUGUSTA uses, but only if you have a 5-star gauntlet. The reason why I'm saying this, because this is damage oriented set. This is for DPS, that's why AUGUSTA is using it. So if you don't have a good DPS weapon, then your stats will not really give you too much damage, so you getting buffed. These buffs will not really be that good. If you don't have like over 1000 base attack, this attack percentage boost will not scale that well, and critical damage of your mediocre damage is still mediocre, so it's not really that good, honestly, if you don't have her signature, because her signature gives her the best crit ratio, the best bonuses for her damage, and overall she'll perform amazing with AUGUSTA, and maybe even very good with Jian. But again, Jian benefits way more from Mortefi, because Mortefi gives a bit more buffs than IUNO, because the set he's using, and the S6 gives extra 20% attack, and static miss gives extra 10% and at the baseline, and all other stuff on top of like 38% heavy attack damage bonus. So IUNO only gives 50% amplification for heavy attack to Jian, but to AUGUSTA she also gives another 40% amplification because of the shield that AUGUSTA is stacking. So it's like exclusive only for AUGUSTA, that buff. So that's why IUNO is the best in slot. But outside of that, you can put like IUNO on like weapon like Marcato. I'm using the Marcato weapon on IUNO usually. I try to use this Stonard on her like DPS and stuff, but I think Marcato is way better. You activate the Resin skill, you get Concerto and stuff, and energy regions, you can get the ult very fast rotation, and use Moonlight Cloud on IUNO if you don't have her weapon, and AUGUSTA will do a lot more damage and you'll be fine, honestly. And so that's basically what I think about IUNO. She's a good pull, but the most value you get from her is if you have AUGUSTA. If you don't have AUGUSTA, her value is like okay-ish, but it's not like the best unit. Her value on account then depends on you having CIACCONA again, right? CIACCONA is very valuable unit, but again, she makes IUNO more valuable, because now IUNO and Jian and CIACCONA will do way more, because CIACCONA buffs DPS of IUNO and DPS of Jian. But again, you need 5-star gauntlet. So that's a good thing to keep in mind. But all these people, all of these resonators are sharing one common thing, and that is that their weapons suck on every other character outside of them. And also there's another thing they all share in common: PHROLOVA is still better. So yeah, I'm trying to warn you guys. Yeah, they are might be very cool, but if you can get only one character, you should get it right now, and it's PHROLOVA. So yeah, you might be saying, oh, you're glazing too much. I'm just saying, if you think that you can like swap a little faster, you can like play however you want, sure, you can do whatever you want. Pull AUGUSTA, it's way better than pulling CARTETHYA. But if you pull someone like CARTETHYA, no CIACCONA, and you missed out on PHROLOVA just to brick yourself with CARTETHYA, it's a big mistake. So that's one thing to keep in mind. PHROLOVA is still way better option than those upcoming reruns. So that's something that people wanted to know. The upcoming resonators that we're also getting are the 2 new resonators. So let's talk about these ones. And first one is Lynae. This one is pretty easy. Her best in slot SONATA sets will be this one. Yeah, I just pre-watched this one and analyzed. This is her best in slot DPS set. Yeah, Lynae will have, as livestream devs they told us, she will be support, like sub DPS. She will also have a multi-role, so she'll also be able to be full on DPS with this set, and this one is pretty good. Dealing basic attack damage, increases spectral damage, and it's stackable. With max stacks, casting Resonance Liberation increases basic attack damage. So honestly, this just confirms Lynae is a basic attack damage dealer, DPS. And so what this means is that her weapon most likely will buff basic attack. This is her weapon, pistol. She's a gun user as well. It will buff basic attack damage. And what this means is that on Lynae, this weapon will be amazingly powerful. But on every other like pistol user, it might be just a stat stick. And the reason why, it's not only there's no other basic attack pistol user, but there is also high possibility that this might happen, right? If we go over to weapons, let's see. Augusta, obtaining shield allows heavy attack damage to ignore. Nobody obtains, outside of Augusta, no other broadblade user that is like premium, they don't stack any shield whatsoever, nobody. So that's first restriction, like by the mechanic, right? Without shields, you don't get the second buffs, which is way better than 20% heavy attack. So if you're not heavy attack damage dealer, again, you get nothing. The second one, when wielder casts intro skill or inflicts negative statuses, they gain liberation damage technically 3 times, and then at max stacks, after doing all of this, then you get this buff, which buffs all the units in a team that also are restricted to only like inflict the negative status, and then they get buffs as well. So multiple restrictions by the mechanic. You need to inflict negative status, otherwise this doesn't work. And then if this doesn't stack up, this doesn't work. And even if it works, your teammates still need to inflict negative status. So another restrictive by mechanic weapon. Then we have this completely restrictive. Nobody can use this as a stat stick, and if they can, they still can't use this effect. Yeah, you can get 8% def ignore, but that's nothing compared to like 20% amplification for your entire damage, but you don't get it if you're not attacking erosion inflicted at the enemy. Another one is like energy I mean, this is not mechanic, this one is mechanic. If your arrow rover casts resonance skill, you get 26% arrow damage amplification point at all the resonators in the team for 30 seconds. Again, mechanic, resonator specific, this is for Galbrena. Deal echo skill damage, you gain heavy attack damage amplification. Deal heavy attack damage, gain echo skill damage amplification for 6 seconds. Specific. Then, with both effects being active, which is impossible for anyone besides Galbrena, which is who actually possesses this SIG, you get extra 8% defense. Nobody can activate this besides Galbrand. So you're starting to see what I mean by this. And this is also the UNO's signature. As you can see, obtaining shields, yada yada yada. You get a lot of buffs by obtaining shields. No one besides John Sheen, who doesn't do any damage in the first place, and UNO is actually someone who deals damage, but she's the only one. If you put this on Zhang Liao, you get no buffs from here. You get this one, 20%. Zhang Liao's signature gives you 48. Like, look at this. This is this 48 liberation damage percent. Like, way better. Like, why would you use this? So this is useless on anyone else. Then this one, Spectral Frazzle. You don't do those Spectral Frazzle, no 50% amplification. So mechanic, reliant. This one, like, if you don't do basic attack damage off field, you don't get this buff. This one, if you're not doing like heavy attack and basic attack, like if you're not dealing damage to Spectral Frazzle target, boom, like you're not getting any bonus, and you need to attack it 3 times. And heavy attack damage, like, nobody can use this unless your support is Spectral Rover, but then you're like coping hard just to use this weapon. Like, you need to go out of your way just to use this weapon. This one, you need to activate the echo skill within 10 seconds after intro to get 40% basic attack damage bonus. The only rectified user in the game who is DPS and who can use this is Encore. And Encore has her Nightmare Inferno Rider, who needs to be summoned, actually who needs to be transformed, and that means you're interrupting your rotation just to activate the buff for 10 seconds. So it might run off before your final hit of your ultimate. So yeah, even Encore is like, you need to go out of your way to even activate this on a standard unit. So there is so many weapons, at least recently. Like, this is the this is 2.0 weapon, but so yeah, this is the recent weapon. This, even this, like from 2.0, this one recently weapon. This one is more like forgiving, I think. This one is more recent. Yeah, Augusta and the Chisa weapon. Like, all of these weapons, this is what I'm trying to say. Both Mornye and Lynae's kit, as we heard from the live stream, they said they will include tune break mechanics. they'll buff tune break mechanics, enhance it with their kit. That's why they're good. That's why you should pull those characters, because they'll eventually be way better to use with the new system than older units. So, and I think that based on that tune break mechanics, that's like one of the requirements that'll be needed for the newer weapons to be working. So the newer weapon from the banner, the pistol, will most likely buff basic attack, but it'll be based on tune break mechanic. There'll be like a percentage of a meter, and then after that you get like decent amount of like, or something like that, right? And for some older units, that mechanic might be slightly more challenging than for like Lynae and Mornye, because they are like directly supporting that mechanic. So pulling those weapons is not the best idea if you don't have Lynae or you don't have Mornye. That's like my prediction, because it's fine, right? It's not like it cannot be used on anyone else, and even if it can, if there's like broadly, if Mornye's broadly buffs liberation damage, guess what? If it like relies too much on tune break mechanic, you cannot use this on Calcharo, right? You cannot use this on Calcharo, on Lupa, because it'll just suck. It'll just interrupt your rotation too much, and you won't be able to rotate normally and play optimally if you use those weapons. So those weapons most likely will be tailored made only for Mornye and Lynae respectively, and that's it. But let's go aside from weapon. Lynae, as we know, has very good static miss. This one gives you critical rate, attack. You get attack, critical rate, and energy regen plus attack percentage to incoming resonator. So that's very good. From the teammates, you have free 4-star Sanhua that amplifies basic attack damage for incoming resonator. So Sanhua is very powerful for someone like Lynae. So that's very important to know. And she can use Moonlight Cloud, buff Lynae even more. So Lynae has a best in slot offer release that's very powerful. She rotates very fast. So Lynae will be having very powerful support. And you can use Shorekeeper at the 3rd slot or Verena, whichever you have. So because she's a basic attack user, that's very good. Now, yeah, that's basically what I think about Lynae, right? So that's Lynae. She's a basic attack user, weapon. She can use Static Mist and Sanhua, and you're good, right? And then you always set, farm it, have fun. She's easy to build, obviously, and so she'll be a decent DPS, and she might help you like go further if you're missing on spectral DPSs. So she'll be very good update to your roster. Now for Mornye, which is the last character, as I said, they said that she's a shielder, healer, team buffer, and also has something to do with the tune break mechanic, something like advancing, and so she might be more like Shorekeeper type of character. If that's the thing, she might scale off HP like Shorekeeper does, or they might go a different route and say, okay, she might scale defense. That'll mean that she needs to be Shorekeeper level of character. And what I mean by that, that she needs to be at least someone who says, I can use Discord and still be fine. If she does some damage, if her rotation is not shortened too much by Discord, which I think she's fast rotating, but in case she's not, she might be very signature reliant. But if her buffs are good enough to replace Shorekeeper, then what will happen is that you equip Discord, buff entire team with whatever she buffs, and then swap out. She's also fusion. She can pair with someone like Lupa, and then make your brand be an actual DPS instead of your Changli. You can kick Changli, or just give up on Changli as a whole with Lynae on your team. Or you don't have brand, now you get Mornye, now you can play Changli. You can play also, what is it? You can play Anchor. She's a standard. She does a lot of basic attack damage, and she's a fusion unit. So you can have triple fusion team. Lupa is a team buffer if you have Lupa already, and Mornye will just make this team way better. So Mornye can have big use case off release, and if she's like general buffer, she can basically have the same use case as Shorekeeper, which means she can buff any team on the roster and be very, very useful. So if she can use, again, something like Discord, that means she might be very, very free-to-play friendly, maybe even more than Lynae. So from the new sets, we saw there's a new healing set, works similar to Rejuvenating Glow, so more attack buff, so we don't really know what she does from that set alone, but honestly, it is what it is, right? But Discord, I think at least Discord will at least be very good for Mornye whatsoever. So That's something that I want to mention. So with that being said, that's basically it. That's basically it what I want to say. I think both of these characters have big potential, and yeah, let me know in the comment section below if you will pull for these characters, what you want to pull for. Did this video help you? If it did, make sure to like, subscribe, and see you in the next video. Peace.